welcome back to the RAD podcast. It's been a minute. We're back, ready to get the season started. Glad to see everyone logged in today. And hey, my energy just shot through the roof right then. But um, happy to be back, man. This is
Yeah.
season what, like 16? Feel like it.
I know, man. We've been going at back and forth, man, under, different names and everything, but it just feels good to be back, man. I miss the energy, miss the conversation. Um, yeah, we started this journey in 2020, and it's just kind of morphed into kind of our own thing, man. So here we go, almost 4 years later.
Absolutely. So, for those who do not know, I'm just a part of this team. Larry Jefferson from Dallas, Texas. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm the second half, man. This great dynamic duo is Dantrayl Smith representing the best city in the world for barbecue, Memphis, Tennessee, baby. That's what we do.
Man, I ain't heard nothing about that, man. Only thing I know about Memphis is they lost to the Lakers in the playoffs.
Hey, Dylan Brooks. Hey, that man was killing it for Canada.
They did put on the show. Like, man, that's crazy. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, I mean, what do we got in store for everybody for this season? I'm excited.
Oh, man, you know what's crazy, man, is I was sitting here and I was thinking, um, how I think this season has probably been is going to be one of our best seasons. I say that every year, right? Because it's really difficult
Right.
um to try to top what, I'm saying, we really got going on. But if you really think about it, man, I think we're at the place now where we're able to just kind of really build upon the knowledge base and
Hmm.
then really tuning in to what our listeners are really asking for, right? So like really kind of making sure that we're touching all of the areas based upon their feedback, but then also introducing some new content that I think a lot of people just really haven't had the opportunity to hear. So we got three different mini series that we're going to be kicking off. I think the first one is going to be focusing on social media. So I kind of give some premise, a little introduction to what it's going to be talking about. So it's called Connected in Chaos, unveiling the impact of social media. With the rise of social media and its influence over our lives, it is essential to understand its impact holistically, from transforming the depths of communication to driving social change and raising awareness. The power of digital connectivity cannot be underestimated or overlooked. Thus, in this mini series, myself and Larry will explore a variety of different ways to really kind of navigate the digital landscape and navigate it mindfully. So next week we're going to be diving in talking about the rise of the digital age, and looking forward to that one just because I think the individuals that we have kind of give the historical concept of how social media kind of came about, right? I mean, I think we just kind of think it just happened, but what was it
Because
really
I almost
intended?
feel like it did.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's how I thought it was. But having conversations with some of the people we want to bring on, it's definitely interesting to hear their perspective on how everything just kind of happened.
Yeah, I'm not really heavily involved on social media. I kind of use it for, shopping and all that kind of stuff. But
You be on Timu?
nah, I haven't used it. Is it a good platform?
Man, some of my friends use it. They say they like it. So
Really?
I don't know.
Interesting. Well, nah, at one point I was using my Facebook page just to post on um, social injustices and all that kind of stuff. But man, shit, life got tangled up, and so I don't use it as much. But I listen to some of the stuff that my wife have playing on her phone, or some of my friends send me, and just more so for kicks. But then the inspirational things I get out of it. But I guess I'm just not the type. I don't want everybody in the world knowing what I'm doing or how I'm moving. So It'll be interesting to hear that because social media is taking off like crazy.
Hmm. Yeah, and you never really understand the mental effects that it has, and I think that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to having the conversation in this mini series is really kind of delving into the mental anguish that comes from just you scrolling up and down to
Hmm.
feeding certain things within your spirit, and man, just even just some of the impact of like TikToks and stuff that it has on kids, right, at a younger age, which I know a lot of, I mean, my boys, they be on social media like crazy sometimes. Not really social media,
Really?
but more like TikTok, right? TikTok or YouTube, because YouTube now is kind of built in with TikToks, right? They have that same type of platform where it's like short videos you can scroll through on YouTube. So it's a similar mindset, just kind of how it really affects people is what I'm looking forward to really kind of diving into.
Yeah, especially after you start. I think the funniest thing I heard was, especially with the student population that we work with, was one of I heard two students going back and forth and was like, "Well, that's why you ain't got as many followers as I do." And I was like, "Dang, is that the new thing? Like, do these people even know you?" And so I didn't know it was such a big deal till you hear about people saying, "Oh, you got this amount of followers." Now I know there's a financial thing that comes along with that as well, which is
Right.
which is good if you're making profits off of it, but is definitely a different world. I don't even know if how I would have responded had social media been out during my teenage years.
Man, who you talking about? Because I didn't have no filter back then, man. I didn't care. Like if you pissed me off, shit, I was gonna let you know about it, man. I just didn't
Yeah,
hold back.
my filter was on extra zero, like negative, negative. And so I'm just glad that it came out when got sharpened up a little bit. So, but it's tough out
Yeah.
here. And I think one thing that's going to be good about the podcast, and I'm going to invite my class to it because I want them to understand the repercussions that come from the things that they post as well. So there are good benefits for it, for its networking and all that, but there are also some challenges that come with it. Because if you notice, a lot of restaurants are pushing you to their social media page versus their web page.
Yep. Yep. Everybody's on social media now, man. I mean, shoot, you got, like you said, students, people posting pictures and trying to get all these such and such likes. And then if somebody, it's like if you don't like their picture, they get mad. And I was like, wait, what? Like no, I just didn't see it. Like I was gone that day, right? Like I was just busy. And it's like, oh, well, you didn't see my post. I posted. I was like, nah, man. Like I'm just not that type of person where I just creep on different people's pages or go to it. Like my go-to for social media is for comedy, right? Like I just go through the little comedy stuff because sometimes I'm having a bad day and I just want to laugh. And so I just click on stuff that somebody sent me and I just laugh and that's it. You know what I mean? But you have other people that all they care about is I gotta post these type of pictures. I gotta get, 1,500 likes. I gotta get 1,500 followers. And it's like, well, if you're spending so much time and energy doing that, what are you really doing? You know what I'm saying?
And who
Like,
you doing it for? So I'm glad we were able to touch on that, and I hope it really makes a difference in those that are. Some people are good with it, like, oh, social media doesn't run my day or whatever, and then some, they struggle with that, and to the point you're saying, hey, such and such didn't like my page, what's going on, and is
yeah,
that a part of some insecurities that they may have? I don't even want
right.
to get into my psychology part of that though.
Right. But then, I mean, there's also the positive side about social media,
Hmm.
right? It's the ability to be able to network and connect with people across various continents, right? And then it's also the piece of, marketing your business or so forth and so on. And
Right.
so um I'm excited that we're able to even touch on some of those areas so people can kind of really know how to effectively use social media for their benefit, right? Because I think when we see social media, we get scared because we're like, oh my gosh, it's this huge monstrosity of a thing. I just don't know how to wrap my mind around it in a way that makes sense for me, right? And so it's being able to have that ability and knowledge from the conversations that we have to say, oh, okay, well, if I'm doing X, Y, and Z, so like let's say for a business, then boom, I'm able to kind of really just tap into allowing myself to just post through, for example, like the RAD podcast. And I just post stuff about that, right? But then also being creative and creating promo videos and stuff. I was calling Larry, y'all. I was like, Larry, man, you seen the promo video for the Rad podcast? And he's oh yeah, 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 yeah. And then I was like, man, aren't you excited, man? Wasn't it dope? Wasn't it cool? He's like, yeah, man, it was cool. And I was like, man, I worked so hard on that, man. I want you to be as hyped as I was. I was up late and everything.
Yeah, Dantrayl called me like 4 times asking me about this dang podcast video. And I'm like, I'm studying, I'm trying to read 50 pages in 2 days. I was like, yeah, bro, it's cool. He was like, it was like a blank silence. I was like, oh, you wanted more validation, my bad. I'm working on that, man. I'm working on that. I was like, nah, bro, you did a great job. Excellent work. I said, man, my boy, words of affirmation. I was like, all
Yeah.
right.
Yep. Yep.
But
Yep.
nah, it was a hell of a job though.
Yeah, so I'm excited, man. It's learning some new creative ways to really kind of market what we do, so other people can kind of really understand it. You know what I'm saying, and get it out there and share it and share
Oh
it.
yeah,
So,
absolutely, absolutely. Second series, what we got for our second one?
all right, so the second series is definitely going to be controversial. So I hope everybody marks their calendars and tune in for this one. It's called DEI in shackles. Since 2020, at least a dozen U.S. state legislators have proposed or passed laws targeting DEI efforts, including laws aimed at limiting DEI roles and efforts in various businesses and within the realm of higher education, and laws emulating DEI spending, training, and statements at public institutions, nonprofits, etc. Therefore, in this series, Dantrayl and myself, well, not Dantrayl, Larry and myself will explore who are these changes really benefiting.
Yeah, I had a conversation with some individuals last week about the program that I currently run and then the program I previously came from. And the question was, what are they going to do next about programs that are geared or tailored towards students of color? And I honestly, I didn't have an answer. I don't know. I think it's all about kind of just word playing with how you're going to label it and then how you should do things. But I still don't think it should take away from what that plan is and what that service is meant to do, and that serves students that are underrepresented from different communities and just supplying them with the resources that it takes for to get them to a successful level. And if that's an issue that individuals are having, that shows you where our leadership is,
Yep.
which is a problem.
Yep. And it's crazy to think, right? Like, I mean, just what, 3, 4 years ago, this was on nobody's radar, or at least it wasn't on the conversations that we were having on TV, social media. I mean, like yeah, you had certain people that talked about, making sure we're going out to the polls and vote and reading what the platforms were for those individuals that were running. But in
Mm-hmm.
terms of this truly, truly intentional act of violence versus, DEI efforts that were built in place so that we can put in, the right people to be able to do the right things, creating all of these different avenues for people that, look like me and, I'm saying, me and you to be able to do certain things, right? And now it's like, whoa, you want to sit up there and take that away? I was having a conversation with one of my mentees, man. We were talking about just within the realm of higher education, how a lot of multicultural affairs offices are having to change their name, right?
They are.
And then now the perception that that's given to incoming students, right? And it's like, well, wait a minute, what, you know, who are you? And then you got current students on campus saying, oh yeah, go by the multicultural affairs office. And they're like, multicultural affairs, like, what is that? I don't know what that is. And new students are like, well, it's called the intercultural, you know what I mean? It's like all these different types of names and it's causing confusion. And now students ain't gonna really go to those offices for support because they're like, well, if you don't know what it is, I don't really know what it is. I mean, they changed the name, like, what is it really about? So I think higher education, man, is definitely in in trouble, in terms of the way that it's going to be tactful and it's definitely going to, oof, man.
But not only that, what did it say to your staff that has been supporting this and that has been pushing this initiative to supply these resources to help students graduate and help them reach the next level? And now you're coming back saying, hey, we need to change how we do business. When 2 years ago, during the pandemic, everybody was yelling out, well, I think everybody little motto was, we're in this together, we're in this together. Now, like, yeah, we was in it together back then. Now
Right,
we're not in
right.
this together. So I'm, and Gail's gonna hate to hear me say this, but like, make it make sense to me.
Yep.
Um, and if it don't, then what are we doing? Because I don't see the issue with applying more funding to a group that needs additional help. I'm not understanding it, and we're going to see where it goes.
Yeah. And I think, like, I mean, we get the great part about this series is we get a chance to expand it outside of higher ed. Granted, you and I can sit up here and have conversations about how the new legislators, and all they're doing is really
Hmm.
affecting the work that we do and the way we engage and interact with students. And we have to be a little more creative and also strategic way about the way we talk with each other. And it's like, man, sometimes I come home, bro, and I'm so mentally drained and like just stressed because of all of the code switching that has to go on in and out my day, right? And it's like, well, how can I get to a place where I don't have to do that? And unfortunately, because of the way the legislature is moving, we're not going to be able to get to that, right?
No,
But I'm really excited, man, about some of the individuals we got from the nonprofit sector. You know what I'm saying? Because that's an area that I have no clue about. And
yeah,
I'm thinking about all the people they serve, right? Like the people that they serve, how is that really affecting them? So
yeah. Well, and the good thing about it is they can get sponsorship from outside entities, you know what I'm saying? Or they can get donations from community partners and all that kind of stuff. Now, where it comes into play that can really hinder them is if they're getting federal funds. Now you're playing, federal state funds, and then the state is saying, hey, we're not really funding programs like that anymore. So what happens then? Uh, and do we see a drop off or even see a deeper dive into financial issues with um, some of the people that are already living at that poverty line, especially with how the cost of living is hyped up here
yeah.
lately. Shoes, I put $100 of gas in my tank, and well, it didn't even go to full. I was like,
Dang.
wait a minute. Uh, so just think about that. Who even has $100 to put in a gas tank? And it's just gonna. I think they're making it tough on a lot of individuals, and most of those individuals are individuals of color.
Yeah, and think about like even just like supporting new initiatives, right? Or just supporting current issues that's going on. Like, if we're supporting like let's say LGBTQAI plus, right? And so like if my organization is a nonprofit happens to, like my staff brings me an idea, says, hey, this would be a good population or good program that we can get behind. Now, as an employer, I have to truly think about, yeah, like that would be cool, but if we do get behind it, will some of our vendors, will some of our sponsors, will they back us up now? And it's like, okay, well, maybe we don't support the initiative, but then those individuals get mad at us, right? And then we could lose people that picket it out, you know what I mean? And so it's like all the different mental battles you gotta fight. That's just in my opinion, man, just draining you so much to where you're just like, man, like I don't know which way to go.
Or do I can, which to me is not an option for either of us, but like, what about those who just say, you know what, I can't fight this anymore? And there are a lot of people that get to the point they say, you know what, I'm singing to the choir, everything I'm saying is falling on deaf ears. I'm done. I'm through. But so now you kill their morale and then also limited resources for individuals that really need it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I'm
I'm
looking
curious
for
how this DEI is going to work. I know it's definitely going to impact higher education. Um, I'm not sure how the corporate world is going to have to deal with it, or even if they are going to have to deal with it. But it'll be interesting to hear what our panelists have to say about how that's going to impact their world and their industry as we move forward.
yeah, I mean, because we have a lot of businesses that, you know, during that 2020 when we were seeing so much violent visual violence. I mean, we know that it was always taking place, all the time, but visually was in our face. And so you start to see a lot of corporations move to creating this space, right? Hiring these staff or these individuals to come in and facilitate and do their DEI work for their offices, practices, right? Making sure that their people are trained, all these different types of things. And now it's like legislators come back, it's like, oops, you know what? We're not gonna be able to fund that anymore. So either you got to figure something out, or that person's gonna just have to go. And it's like, whoa, wow, that's where we are. So yeah, so I'm everybody make sure you pull up a seat. That mini series is going to be off the chain, talking about nonprofits, higher education, and definitely the business corporate world and how it's affecting them. So
Yeah. So then we jump down to our last uh, mini series, which is really, I think, is going to hit more personal for individuals. Um, Almost as we closed out with Goody and
yeah.
a sex education talk. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so last season we like you said, we closed out talking about sex ed and it was one of our more popular highest rated listening, tune in, I don't know what you want to call it, man, but
And
it was crazy. And then some of the comments that came following it on social media was even crazier. So
I
was
don't
happy
think
to
my
have the
mama
conversation.
was ready for it.
hey, hey, my mama wasn't ready for it either, man. She called me. She was like, "Wow, I mean, that was an interesting episode, son." And I was like, "Okay, mama, tell me what you mean interesting." She was like, some of the language was a little bit much. And I said, well, I don't really know if it was much or was it just that was just the type of language that, you just weren't ready to hear. And so of course that conversation happens, right? So it's always really interesting to hear people's points of view from different generations on how, they talk about sex. So
But I was
um
so happy. I was glad my mom did get to hear it
yeah,
because a lot of that and I mean, just thinking back, those conversations were not had in my household.
No.
Um, I learned about sex through my friends, and it was like us just making up stuff
Right.
and just
Yep.
us finding it out as we weaned through, from middle school to high school to adulthood, just different things that we found out during that process. But sex wasn't something that was just really talked about. More so, it was just like, hey, don't bring no babies in the house, and that was it. Yeah, I was like, okay, I think I can avoid that, but other than that, it's not something that's talked about or even shared during that time frame in a lot of Black households. Because, like I say, none of my friends were having those conversations with their parents, and that's why, having a conversation with my mom, I said, I think it made you uncomfortable because your generation don't really talk that much about it, and your parents' generation sure as heck didn't talk that much
No.
about it. And whereas we are just kind of more open, and then this newer generation
Oh
having them
man.
in having them in my class teaching human sexuality, these kids don't give a dang. Like they just be like, hey, professor, what you think about this? And I'd be like, it made me uncomfortable. I said, hold on now. But it's just one of those things. I think more people have more accessibility to it, and
Yeah.
they're talking about it, but they not all, but what's being left out is what goes along with that conversation. And I think what we are addressing here in our last mini series will really talk much to that.
Yeah. So everybody, so our last mini series is called Healthy Communication of the Heart. And I have to say, bro, I just gotta put a shameless plug in there, man, that you did a phenomenal job pulling up to some great themes for our mini series. That's your strong point, man, coming up with
Appreciate it.
names because I don't. But we're gonna talk a little bit about in order to produce healthy communication from your heart, one must focus on listening intently, speaking from a warm, loving, caring space, and being present with yourself, with your significant other, and every other person you hold dear to your heart. So make sure you tune into this series as we dive into a variety of different areas when we talk about how you communicate effectively from your heart. So that first episode of the series is entitled The Mental Health of Your Heart, with the following talking about love and wellness, and then rounding it off talking about the inner compass. And I won't give full details about what specifically is going to happen during a lot of those episodes, but I will tell you this. You do not want to miss this series. One, I think, and Larry, if I could jump in just to say that I'm excited about the individuals that we have coming on to speak directly in that space, right? Because I think so many times we spend so much time and energy on our jobs or with family that when it comes to communicating how I truly feel, either we we communicate it in the wrong way or we communicate it mentally in our minds the best way we know how, but really kind of equipping us with the tools and the skill sets that we need to really kind of understood that. And man, like I'm really excited about the trauma episode, man, that we're going to dive into because that truly affects a lot of us.
Well, I mean, you think about how many couples experience domestic violence based off of just a pile up of non-communicative, like we just not had something to hash this out, or not going to therapy when or counseling when needed. And shoes, man, growing up in a household where you hear bickering, or you see it on TV, or you see it with other your friends, family, or your family outside, and you're like, damn. You look at them now; they still married, but they got an unhealthy freaking relationship.
Right.
Communication is trash, but they've been built to say, hey, through thick and thin, we're going to stay together no matter what. But you're poisoning each other with your language. And I think is so key to understand how that mental component really makes or breaks relationships. You can have the coldest person in the world, but if y'all not in sync mentally and you're not being able to talk about what you're feeling without judgment or coming back later using it as a ammunition, then it's going to be a struggle.
Yeah. A pastor of the church was talking about he's doing this mini series on healthy relationships and marriage and different things. And so, he talked about, God gave us 2 ears to listen, right? And then he went into the biblical approach on how do you effectively listen within your marriage, right? And I was like, wow, like I never heard it that way. Like, you intuitively think like, okay, yeah, I'm here, I'm present, like I hear you, right? But am I really listening to the individual based upon what they're wanting me to hear and what they're truly trying to express to me? So that's a piece, man. And then like I think trauma is just an area that I think a lot of us are scared to talk about.
Hmm.
Um, because there's things that have happened traumatically to me in my childhood that I didn't really even know it affected me, right? Like until I went to counseling and they were like helping me to kind of break down and understand, oh, well, yeah, because you're operating, because this happened, this could be a reason why you're operating over here in this type of environment, right? And I was like, oh, wow, like never even thought about that, right? But then
Hmm.
they make it make sense. And so I'm hoping that a lot of people really tune in when we talk about that episode. Not hoping people just automatically just share their traumatic experience with the world, but
Right,
to
right.
at least walk away with some tools and skill sets to be like, okay, well, here's some ways that I can address what did happen to me and how I can better move forward because it does, it happens like and we don't realize it and it shows up in our marriages with our significant others. It shows up in the way we interact with people at work. I mean, it shows up, what I mean, just internally within ourselves and how we treat our own bodies. So
Yeah, and then people be like, "Wait, where this come from?" But it's been put in the back of a memory that you chose to suppress. Or one of the things that I really have overcome was one of the things my mom used to say: "What happened in this house? Stay in this house." Well, a lot of times what happened in people's homes don't need to stay in the house. And I understood what she meant by it, uh, but at the same time, are you suppressing something that needs to be let out? And if so, you're forcing this person to carry this baggage into another relationship, and so that person gets to get all that crap that's been pent up, that's been suppressed, into this new relationship, and they look at it like, all I said was blah 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 blah,
right.
and damn, it didn't spark an argument. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I think we got some really, really good series that individuals really enjoy hearing, and then some of the experts that we have coming on to share. It's cool. One of the things I'm excited about is the ability to pull in people from all over the world. I mean, typically, you and my network, we've tapped into it, and we've been able
Mostly
to
you, mostly your network. I'd be like,
we've been
dang, how
able
that Trey know them?
we've been able to pull some people from the states, man. But one of the things that I'm looking is just the perspective of people from other countries that we'll be bringing in
Right, right.
for this podcast that I don't even think about, right? Like you're so tunnel vision into everything in Texas or everything in America that you kind of forget about what's going on in the other world and how they see it, right? And
Hmm.
so I'm excited to hear some other individuals from other countries share their testimony. I think the viewers and the listeners will really love and enjoy that too. So, and the quotes. I got some fire quotes, man.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, shoes. Are you playing? Are you ready?
Yeah, 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 yeah. All right, so this quote comes from a gentleman by the name of Dick Durbin. And actually got two quotes, man, because we've been gone for so long. I feel our listeners need to start us. I need to start them off with two quotes. So the first quote
Okay.
says, "We have a long way to go, some tough issues ahead of us, and I'm sure there will be some obstacles in the path. But the good faith efforts that's being put into this absolutely is encouraging to me and gives me hope." And that's from Dick Durbin. And the next quote is from Anthony Mackie, and he says, "Sometimes I feel like success is opportunity plus preparation. So work begets
Absolutely.
work, and as long as you're prepared, it's going to continue to come your way." And I just have to say, brother, it's been phenomenal to be on this journey with you. And I
Absolutely.
know,
Ditto.
I, yeah, and I know we got a long way to go, but I'm excited about just the minds that we're changing as people are tuning in, and the success that's bound to come our way, man. So
Yeah, I think one thing I do really appreciate about this platform is walking down the hallway sometime and people be like, "Hey, I know you." And it be people that I work with. And I be like, "I don't know where you know me from." And like, "Oh, you do that podcast." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." It's just a trip because these are people that normally I would have just kept on walking past,
right,
you just go about your regular day, but it has opened up networking doors. So I'm excited about that.
yep,
Well, until next time, we appreciate y'all for being here. Thank y'all for tuning in. We're super excited about what we have in store for you all as we navigate throughout this fall semester. So next week, here it is, 5 p.m. Please join us, the same link. We'll talk about the rise of the digital age. So tune in with us. Until then, we'll see you later.